The late 90s were something of a renaissance for fighting games, especially in the art department. It was around this time that art in fighting games really started coming to form, where graphics had advanced to a point where 3D games were finally coming together in terms of style and animation, and 2D artists could express some truly masterful animation technique with their sprite work. Nowadays, in the age of motion capture and dynamics engines, it's difficult for many modern devs to recapture the magic of classic fighting game animation, so today, we're going to look at a character who actually survived the transition to modern day. Rock Howard. Rock Howard is the protagonist to 1999's Garou: Mark of the Wolves. Garou is a game I would consider to be very close to perfection. Beautiful 2D sprite work, gorgeous pixeled backgrounds, a great cast of characters, simple but refined gameplay, and a hilariously bad translation worthy of an SNK classic masterpiece. As the final entry in the Fatal Fury series, the game puts the spotlight on Rock Howard, the son of series villain Geese Howard, who was then adopted by Fatal Fury's longtime hero, Terry Bogard. There's some considerable risk when it comes to creating a second generation of established heroes. A successor character is already judged by existing in the shadow of an already beloved longtime series favorite, so the tendency is either to retread familiar ground, or to deviate so far from the source that fans of the original are not impressed. However, I feel that Rock succeeds in carving his own identity. Instead of being overshadowed by his dual lineage, Rock combines what he inherited from both Geese and Terry and makes it into something his own. His animations and expressions also show that he's grown into his own man. He's not just Geese Jr. or Terry Jr., he has his own outlooks, troubles, and motivations that separate him from the legacy of his two fathers. Before I talk about his animation, it's actually really important that I talk about his costume design because of how it ties everything together. Rock's design is a masterclass in functional simplicity. There are only 3 colors to the outfit: red, white, and black. The red and white only exist on his jacket, and the rest of the outfit underneath is black on black, except for the white straps on his boots, which neatly highlight his feet whenever he kicks. The jacket is also cropped right above Rock's waist, so his general silhouette, combined with the color placement, draws your attention to his upper body, where all of his most complex animations are. He's got a white star on the back of his jacket, just like Papa Terry, but he's adorned it with a wing decal, since wings are kind of his recurring design motif, as you will see later. The most important and smartly placed element of his design is the white trim on the edge of his jacket. Not only does this trim neatly separate his jacket from his black undershirt, but since it also outlines the bottom and inner trim of the jacket, it also smartly highlights the motion of his jacket as it moves around. You might have noticed I'm talking a great deal about Rock's jacket. That's because it's the single most important element of his animation. One important principle of animation is what's called follow-through animation. There are many elements to follow through, like overlapping action and drag, but for this example I'm going to simplify the definition as extra animation that follows a primary motion. This is easy to see on characters with capes, or long scarves, or long hair. It was around this time when fighting games really started to master follow-through motion. Observe how these fireball animations from Third Strike exaggerate the backblast of a projectile leaving the hands. It really sells on the powerful release of energy that turns your average Hadouken into an explosion of supernatural force. This principle is what defines Rock Howard's animation, because the follow-through animation of his jacket is a work of art. Nearly all of Rock's animations, from his idle stance to his normals, emphasize the movement of his jacket. The subtle movements of the jacket add a great sense of energy and life, and on particularly big animations, the blowback of the jacket really sells the power of Rock's attacks. And because of how smartly designed his jacket is, you can always see the jacket move no matter what Rock is doing. Not only that, but the bottom of Rock's t-shirt will also animate on particularly big motions, adding yet another layer of follow-through. In a stroke of genius, the separation between Rock's shirt, his belly, and his pants create a visible divide that makes the shirt motion visible even from long distance. There are so many smart decisions about Rock's design that pay off in his animation. Rock also features an additional animation that serves no other purpose than to express personality. When Rock returns to idle after any heavy attack or special move, there's a unique animation where he flicks his hair before starting his idle, standing or crouching. This is not a recovery animation. You can actually cancel out of it by moving or pressing a button. As a side effect of how it triggers, this also means that KOing an opponent with a heavy or a special move will end a match with Rock doing the hair flip automatically, like an additional free taunt before he goes into his win pose. The fact that he even does this is superfluous, but is also a great show of character. It also can't go unsaid that the animation of Rock's particle effects is top shelf. The special effects in Garou have a real fluidity and a sharpness to them that is unmistakable. The windy effects of Rock's specials are especially gorgeous. Rock's take on Raging Storm is especially iconic. Geese's Raging Storm has always been depicted as concentrated spikes of energy, but Rock's Raging Storm is a wild torrent of untamed power. Remember that wing motif on Rock's jacket? Many of Rock's special moves have a flourish of energy for style, but the energy cleverly and visibly takes the shape of a wing as it comes out. Of course, we can't forget what is arguably the greatest win pose animation of all time. It's also worth mentioning the color choice here. Not only does this shade of violet help stand out against his primary red color, but there's also a neat story tie-in. Geese's effects have always consistently been blue, and Terry's effects have always been reddish-orange, so Rock's purple effects represent the blending of the two. Additionally, when Rock uses the strongest versions of his moves, they have blue effects, just like Geese. To this extent, Rock is the only character in Garou with an extra victory portrait if he manages to KO an enemy with a big, strong special move, reflecting his apprehension about the powers he inherited from Geese. This here is some excellence in visual storytelling, only using the visuals that you see in-game. That said, I have no idea why Shine Knuckle is yellow. The modern-day fighting game is a strange chimera of awkward motion capture, untamable physics engines, and bad corporate decisions. A lot of the subtle artistry that made 90s fighting games so pristine and immaculate have been replaced by clumsy graphical shortcuts. And unless your Arc Systems works, no modern fighting game as of late has yet to recapture that Renaissance magic. King of Fighters 14 turned out to be okay, at least. Neither a graphical masterpiece nor a total flop, KOF 14 still featured a great roster and surprisingly competent animation. When Rock Howard was announced to be added as DLC, I was a bit apprehensive. After all, Rock's last 3D appearance was, not great. But then I noticed something I never thought I'd see in a modern fighting game. Rock's jacket has keyframed motion. Not only that, but his jacket moves almost identically to how it moves in his 2D sprite. All the subtlety and care of his classic animations have actually been remade in 3D. Well, not everything, I guess. I would maybe cut back on the tracking of his head so it's not following the relative enemy position. His hair doesn't quite move the same way when he does the hair flip, and the shade of indigo they use for his particles doesn't quite match the same kind of purple that he uses in his original, unless he has for some reason come to terms with Geese's power, which I don't think he has. But everything else is actually on point. He even has the extra victory portrait for scoring a KO with a blue attack. See, remember how in other videos I'd be screaming about keyframing dynamics objects? This is exactly the reason why. At the end of the day, 3D physics engines are no replacement for fundamental animation principles. Good job, Rock. You somehow survived 3D graphics. And that wraps up today's a.b.i.torial. Let me know in the comments what you think about Rock Howard's animation, and if there's any other animation you'd like me to talk about. Go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more anime and game content from SugarPunch. Don't forget to check out our Patreon for early access to all of our videos. I'm a.b.i., and I'll see you guys next time.